Welcome, everybody, to the Fall Line with KS and Company. I'm Dave Capron. I'm here with my buddy Angelo Ross. Hey, Angelo.
Dave, how are you?
Good, man. I like your hat.
Iceland's
a cool place. I've been there twice, man. That is one fun place. If you want some isolation and some really cool views, you got to go to Iceland.
Every time I wear it, somebody asks me if I'm an Islanders fan.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's the Islanders?
Yeah, no.
Like Puerto Rico?
Yeah, I think my wife would go to Iceland like every year, which that's like the first time she went, she planned it, and I didn't even know till it was already booked. She's like, if you're not going, I'm going alone. And it was pretty good.
She back yet?
Yeah, right. She just went out. I thought she was in a pickup. She might be flying to Iceland if she tested and got all the regs done to be able to get in. I don't know.
Keflavik.
Oh my God, crazy. So, hey, I was thinking we'd chat a little bit today on some things. I've been out doing some events and working with some folks. And one of the questions I always get as we're working through an event or towards the end of the event is, people will say, so what do I need to work on now for the rest of the year? Or what's a specific thing I need to work on? And my thought always is, we've been working for a day and a half or 2 days, or sometimes when we have 4 or 5 days with a couple of our events, it's like, okay, everything we just did for the last 2 days or 4 days is what I was hoping you would continue to work on, because I know when I'm working on stuff, I don't own it in the day. And it's just interesting to me that sometimes when they have a great clinic and they say it's a great clinic, they still don't always see that what they just did isn't done. That's just setting the framework for them to continue to work on. And just kind of wondering your thoughts, and I imagine you have some of the same things happen to you.
Yeah, very much. I think we generally, I think people are trained to expect that sort of feedback from clinics, like lots of little pieces of feedback all the time. And then, at some point, like when these things are all absorbed and assimilated and magically added up, then the skiing is going to be good. But the fact is, we don't learn like that. But I think we've taught people to expect that from clinics. Fully agree.
Yeah. It's like, whatever we just did, I've done it. So what's next? Where do I go next? And then can you give me something for, and I think they miss sometimes that the things we just worked on were stuff I worked on 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and I still work on. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to pick out something random. I mean, I watch the group ski, and I mean, it is interesting. I mean, if we think of our 5 fundamentals, we can go that broad to go. It's somewhat easy to look at a group of 5 or 6 or 8 people and go, there's definitely one fundamental that sticks out, or maybe there's 2. But with the blending those fundamentals, you can look at that and go, okay, here's my fundamental. Now, how do I how do I help each person? Because maybe there's little different things going on. But they think there's like this one magic bullet. But then once that bullet, you've worked on it, even just for a day, they think that bullet's done. And it's interesting when we go out and ski, and a lot of the ed staff, I mean, we're working a lot of times on the same thing we did last year, the year before, the year before that. I mean, it's not because we suck, which some people say we suck. It's just that skiing is a continual thing of really working on the fundamentals, I believe. And I think that's missed. It's missed that you need to work on the fundamentals to get good, and how you work on the fundamentals to change the duration and the intensity and the timing and the rate are very important. They like, for example, our foot-to-foot movements and directed pressure of the outside ski, one of our big fundamentals. They don't play around with the speed of that or how fast you get to the outside foot. And is that just lengthening my leg faster or stepping on the foot faster, as some people would say? Mm-hmm. They don't really look at, sometimes it's more that you have to move across your skis, and I didn't lengthen my leg other than to keep in contact with the snow. Mm-hmm. I'm waiting for the snow to push back at me. And they don't try different ways of doing it. It's just extend. And if I make my leg long, that's what I'm supposed to do. Mm-hmm. They don't try different variations of those fundamentals, which I have to admit drives me nuts. I'll admit that.
Don't sugarcoat it.
I know. I mean,
I'll take the blame for it all.
good. I'm glad somebody does.
This is all my fault. I'm only half joking. But you're lumped in though.
Yeah, I know I am. I know what you're saying.
You're as guilty.
I know what you're saying.
Here's why. And I come back a lot to American education. I come back a lot to mindset of teachers / coaches. I lump everybody together. Anybody who's in an instructional mode. We teach people to expect what then we complain they expect. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's not popular. Like learning the real way you actually learn. And I mean, not you, Dave, I mean like Homo sapien isn't popular for a lot of reasons. You know, we live in a society that's very high speed, you know, microwave ovens, drive-through food, you know, the whole gig. And our expectations are very fast. And we live in a society that's very comfortable, relatively speaking. The most comfortable society, I'm sure, ever to exist on this planet. You know, and I don't mean to be crass and open a can of worms, but I used to tell my kids in school, we have the most comfortable poor class that this planet has ever seen. Like we have a poverty class and I'm generalizing, obviously. We have a poverty class in this country they've got TVs and cars, you know, and I understand that's a result of the economic system, but I'm trying to make the point that we expect high speed results and we expect comfort, you know, as modern Americans and probably as modern, you know, first world people in all countries. But the fact of the matter is, when you're talking about the kind of change that you're talking about, and just narrow it down to skiing again, you're talking about systemic change of habit. You're talking about habitual change, which requires hard work, and it requires time, and it requires experimentation. That's what you're talking about. And it's situationally, it's real time. It's like we give this nugget, try this. And then as they're trying it, it's real time. Try this. And there's the bump run right in front of you. And then try it again. And then try it all day. And then try it for the rest of the season. And I think you have to constantly experiment with these things. It never ends, you know, but the way you're describing the expectation, I agree with. This ends and then this new thing begins. Yeah. And my experience doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree. I mean, it's, you know, we've self-induced it a little bit. I mean, we do it, but it's frustrating because it's like, I thought I finally got them to a place of exploration. I mean, one of our fundamentals in our teaching components to promote exploration and play. But then it goes right back to what's right, what's wrong. And then it relates to, you know, so when they say that, I go, well, what did your ski do? And then there's dead silence. You know, there's not enough. I mean, for me, my ski is the end result. I'm only trying to do things with my body to make the ski work with the snow. And that doesn't mean just carve. I mean, we were doing some stuff where we were skiing some schmeary type stuff. We had some new snow. I mean, we had a foot of snow. So we were playing towards those days of, you know, not a lot of high edge angle, but really trying to keep the ski moving forward so we didn't push it sideways. We were focused more on that, so it was easier to ski. Mm-hmm. And I'm focused there. And it's interesting that, and it's not something new. I mean, I've seen this for years. It's just that it's frustrating. And like you said, we're part of the problem, obviously, because we haven't got them to understand or be able to focus more on what their ski's doing. I don't know if I shouldn't say I don't know. I think it's kind of twofold. One is I think we don't always relate it enough to, you know, in the coaching cues, we'll have a coaching cue of keep your inside hand ahead, keep your shoulder ahead, you know, trying to get them to, and we're really looking to try to not have them rotate upper body. We want them to turn the legs more than the upper body, but it's just a coaching cue. But then we don't relate it to what we'd like. And I'm guilty of this too, of relate it to what I want the ski to do. You know, in a lot of ways, you think as they perform better, the ski performs better when you're coaching them. They got it. But then a day later, it doesn't make sense to them. So I think it's part of us. And then I think part of it is they're not in their learning, in their training, focusing enough on what the outcome is of how they want their ski to interact with the snow.
I'm going to take the blame for that too.
Yeah.
That's all my fault. Yep.
Well, I keep trying to figure out ways to do it. And I'm still looking. And I don't blame it on them. I don't blame me. I think the frustration, and like you said, don't sugarcoat it. For me, it's not, kind of banging on them. It's more still trying to figure out the way to help them understand what their ski's doing, help them be more focused on it. I mean, I know we have to be focused on what our body's doing to make the ski work. I mean, my ski doesn't do anything on its own. And sometimes I think it does, but it's more because I skied lousy and moved my body pretty poorly. How we move is what interacts with the snow. And yes, sometimes the snow isn't friendly, but then I have to move in a certain way to make that easier. Mm-hmm. But I'm so focused on my ski, whether I'm trying to skid the ski, whether I'm trying to carve the ski. And the big thing, which is amazing to me, is grip. I mean, 99% of the time in the East Coast, what are we searching for? We're searching for grip.
Yep.
And somehow we've got to get those folks we're working with to at least try to figure out how to feel the grip and try to get more in tune with the sensation of their ski, in my opinion.
I think that's organizational habit. We are a very body centric organization because we do talk mostly about things like move your knee here, tilt this thing here, turn this thing. That's us again, Yeah. I think I told you before, I was on the chair with Eric Lipton a couple of years ago, and he was talking about working with some of the U.S. ski team, the D team kids. And he was trying to get this point across about something or other. And he kept talking about knee, and they couldn't do it. He was getting frustrated. They were getting frustrated. And finally, one of them said, "Hey, coach, just tell me what to make my ski do."
Yeah.
And that was a moment, and we in PSIA have a very internal locus of focus. You know what I mean? We talk about the body at the expense of the ski a lot of times, but there's a lot of evidence out there that suggests that an external locus of focus is oftentimes more beneficial. If you've ever read The Inner Game of Tennis, that's a terrific book from the 70s that it's not very scientific, but it's more anecdotal, but terrific ideas about focusing on the racket instead of what your body's doing, and it's wonderfully written. Jay Nation, one of our Eastern Tele examiners, sent me a video, and I can't remember the name of it. I'm sorry. I'll try to dig it up for the future. It was a video shown at Rocky Mountain Ed staff training, 2 psychologists, one from University of Arizona, I think, and these 2 psychologists were talking about how performance increased when they had people focus and experiments on the external piece, juggling, for example, focusing on the balls rather than your hands, and so on and so forth. But I think, and what I find myself doing is that I can bounce back and forth between the two. And it depends on, I think, where my head is that day. You know what I mean? Like some days, if I feel out of balance, I know, I'll do like a systems check, start at my feet and try to correct things there. If I can't quite make it work, I'll move up to my pelvis generally. And usually I can make it snap back into place if I focus there. Occasionally, I have to think about something in my upper core, but there are other days where none of that really seems to be working. And I start to think about the ski tips, like focus on the gear. And I think that's really where the answer probably lies, is that we need to train our folks and we need to have them experience that, you can change your locus of focus from your body to your gear to find what's working that day and then work on that for that day. But that may not be what works tomorrow, but we are very, very body focused, and I will open this can of worms right now. I'm throwing it down right now. I'm doing it. You ready? We have focused on the ankle.
Yes.
At the expense of pretty much the rest of the body. And I think that's not ideal.
Yeah, we definitely get into our preferences, and ankles closest to the ski, it can definitely affect, or you want to affect the change quick or fast. It can come from the ankle, but without the chain of events up to the knee, the hip, the spine, this is an open skilled sport, and sometimes we do focus too much on one piece or another. And the ankle is definitely, people are talking ankle. Now, you really talking about your ankle, or you're talking about your foot, and they don't understand how the ankle joint works and how the subtalar joint in the foot works and all that stuff. And it almost confuses them more. And then all you hear is flex the ankle more.
Lock the ankles.
Yeah,
push the shins into the. A few years ago, I changed my rhetoric, maybe 3 or 4 seasons ago, and I try to never just say ankles, and I'll say ankles and abs, and abs, because these things work together to bring you forward. Yeah. In no other sport do you hear what you hear on the ski hill with regard to ankles. Could you imagine trying to? And you do here on the ski hill, lock your ankles forward, really, really flex your ankles. Could you imagine trying to pedal a bicycle like that? Just picture somebody, and I tell you, like, I'm on a trail run and I say, Dave, lock your ankles in place and now take a trail run. But that's what our instruction does to people. And not just our students, it's our instructors that we're working with too. But because somebody in a position of authority in a clinic or training session or the locker room or at the bar or whatever says those words, people believe it, and it is a very, very small sliver of the overall athleticism it takes to actually purposefully use the gear, leverage the gear purposefully rather than lean on it, which is what people end up doing. They lean on the gear.
So I guess it goes back to us that it's our fault again.
My fault. Me, not you. Nobody else. I'm taking it. I'm going to martyr myself today. This is the martyr episode. That's what the title of this has to be.
Can't we just pick somebody on staff and say it was their fault? Like, I don't know. We'll pick Jeb or Matt, or who could we pick?
I was going to pick Troy, but okay.
Troy. It's Troy's fault. It's definitely Troy Walsh's fault. Yeah. Oh man, he's going to love us now. But yeah, it's Troy's fault. It's definitely Troy's fault. No, but it is. And it's like you said. We go. I guarantee you've in the past coached ankle. I have too.
I have.
And we still do in some ways, but it's like you said, you modify it because it seems like when we do that, however we do it, people take it to an extreme.
I'll tell you what, I'm not going to tell you I never mentioned the word ankle, but I'll tell you what I do, 1,000 times more than that now is look at their boots. Like it's 10 times out of 10 and a half. It's the boots don't fit. The boots aren't buckled. And I'm talking about experienced instructors. If it's raining or whatever, I have a captive audience inside, group of our people at home. Everybody's sitting around BS, and I'll say, hey, watch this. And I'll pull my pant legs up and unbuckle my boots. I said, just watch me put my boots on. And I go through my process, and it's not, there's no magic to it. I'm just making sure I'm buckled up. So everything's touching everywhere. And you should see the light bulbs go off just from seeing that. So we're out here coaching ankles, which athletically is questionable anyway, in my opinion, to a bunch of people whose boots aren't even buckled on right. That's just a disaster.
Yeah. I love when you're skiing and you can tell, you look at their shins and their calf, and you see this distance with their pants on the back of their calf, that if you walk up to them, I can put my entire fist behind their calf down inside their boot.
Yes.
Not just straight down with the fingers. I can put the whole fist behind their calf and fit it down into their boot, between their calf and their boot.
I'm going to give away a secret. Anybody who's been in one of my workshops in the past 3 or so years will recognize this, and I'm giving it away right here. I'll work with people in like a workshop clinic, or even a level 1 exam, and just take the morning to see what's happening and throw some activities out and coach through those a little bit and just get people moving. But at lunchtime on the first day of these 2-day events, I always do my boot clinic at the lunch table, like when lunch is over. And anybody who, both of the people who are listening to this podcast, if anybody is out there, will recognize that I have done this, and I do this when everybody's done eating lunch before we're about ready to go out. I say, hey, watch me. And I get everybody to sit in a circle at the lunch table, and just show them how I buckle my boots. And we get out there after they do it. They a lot of times don't have their boots buckled very well.
Yeah.
We'll make that change at lunch, and they go out and they're like, my God, it's like I have a new pair of skis on.
Yeah. Well, Troy will watch their skis. I mean, and just look at how tight they buckle them. He looks at the bottom buckles, and when it's cranked right out and they can't buckle it any tighter, he just goes, your boots are too big. And he's right. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're buckling because they're trying to get the boot to fit snug. Mm-hmm. And 9 times out of 10, they've got a boot that's too big. Mm-hmm. So they're buckling the heck out of the bottom 2 buckles down on the forefoot, mm-hmm. just trying to keep their foot from moving. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is interesting and then how they buckle the top of the boot, and to have all that space. And I mean, they're balancing, just leaning on the front of the boot if they've got all that space behind their calf. Mm-hmm. I mean, if they're not touching, the boot's not touching all the way around their whole lower leg, mm-hmm. there's no way that they're able to, get some stability. Then they're just, like you said, they're just flexing the ankle out to try to stay stable and locking it. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't help either. But it's definitely amazing as to the fit, how good we have our boot fitters and our podorthists and all these guys that are doing our footbeds now. We still see a lot of folks difficulty in what they have for boots. Mm-hmm. We've got to find a way to try to help them be better. Number one, the equipment. It makes a huge difference. And the things now is definitely the piece that needs to be done. And I think we need to, get deeper into it. And I think 2 things I'd like us to do here in the future podcasts that hopefully people want to hear is, a whole podcast just on body performance, ski performance, that you and I just discuss our own personal sensations and how it relates to what we're trying to do to make our ski work. Or maybe it's a whole podcast of not even anything about our body, just what are some of the things we like to do with our ski to help ourselves ski better? What are some of the focuses we take? Like you were talking about, you focus on the tips of the skis and what they were doing. Mm-hmm. And then the other one I would like to see us do is which I love to do is to play, is to explore how fast or just differently we move foot to foot. Take an example of outside ski to outside ski. We do that task to try to move we pick up the new inside foot and have it off the snow surrounding the new outside foot before we even get to the new edge with a bent leg, that it's not lengthened. It's not straight. It's flexed. That's the key of that. But then also try to go out and explore, trying to extend with both legs to see what happens. Mm-hmm. It's so hard sometimes to get students to explore. It's like, well, we don't want to do that. Well, if you don't try it, you're not going to know what it feels like. So when you're skiing down the hill, you're not going to be able to self-coach to know, did I extend both legs? Did I extend only one? Did I flex the inside leg? And, maybe talk through that more specific and just what you and I notice. And maybe, I know we'll have some folks coming on soon here. We're hoping to have Matt Boyd and Jeb Boyd on in the future, maybe next week or week after. Maybe we can ask them a little bit about that and see what some of their personal thoughts are in terms of what they feel and notice with their skis. We've gotten to ski with those guys a lot, and they coach differently than most people. They're very, very good at it, and they figured out that less is more, And I think I said on here before, I skied with Jeb for 6 days at National Academy a couple of years ago. And there's very little what you perceive as instruction, but, around day 4, it creeps up on you that like, well, okay, my skiing has changed. Right. And then by day 5, you're feeling really stoked about the way your skiing has changed. And, day 6, you build up the nerve to say, oh, I see what you did there.
but they understand that, and all good coaches, it's not just Matt and Jeb, but good coaches understand that change in performance, change in habit, change in understanding takes time. You have to convince yourself. And I think, like you mentioned earlier, the folks who are looking for the silver bullets, the magic nugget, haven't figured that out yet. And I'm not trying to preach. I'm one of those folks who used to believe that there was I was going to hear the right words from the right person, and then all of a sudden all my things were going to be fixed, But like I'll tell you this, I was a DCL back in the early 2000s, and I remember one year at Lake Placid, it might have been around 2003. We're going up the tram, and I'm in there with Murmur. 2003, right? This is 17 years ago. And she looks at me and she's like, "You ski like a man." And I'm like, "Thanks." Like, is that good or bad? It was not good. What I eventually deciphered it meant was that I retreat with my hips, which puts my ass behind my heel piece. Like, I have a tendency to settle back. That was 2003. Last year, right? 2019, I'm skiing with her again at Wyndham. And she didn't have anything going on, and I didn't have anything going on. So I got to spend like most of a Sunday morning with her, and she's like, "Yeah, you settle in your hips." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. You told me that 16 years ago. I haven't fixed it yet." So but we went through a series of exercises where, again, she said very little. She's just like, "Do this, okay." And she's like, "Yeah, you're not doing it right. Keep doing it." So I did it. And then when I actually was in a place where she could adjust the activity to make it useful for me. I mean, we were doing stem steps, right? Yep. I finally had them in a place where she could actually give me the instruction. She did that. It still took me another 5 or 6 runs to make the move.
Yeah. When
I made it, I said, "Oh," and she saw it. She's like, "Okay, you felt it. Now keep doing that for the rest of your life." That was a 16-year process, and yeah, I mean, that's it. Not getting your hands up, pressing into the tongue of your boot never came up. None of those superficial things was going to fix what I needed to do. She went foundational into the pelvis, and it clicked. And I'm still doing it. Like yesterday, I'm on ski, or 2 days ago, skiing all day, feeling wonky. Yeah. Got to go back to the thing Murmur said. And it's taken 4 days just to dust it off.
Yeah.
But I know it's my habit, and I know it's a thing that's it's gonna change the way my skis interact with the snow. But I'm probably gonna have to struggle with that for the rest of my life. So I'm staying away from her because she's going to see something else, and then it's really going to mess my head up.
You got another 16-year thing to work on.
I'm never skiing with her again.
Well, yeah, I definitely am. I mean, we're going to have to keep going on this one because it's not going to, this is what we need to help folks with. It's not, I know we need to help them because it's a process we went through. And I mean, I still think, like you said, you're thinking of things Murmur did 16 years ago and you're still working. And I know Jeb and Matt will give me the same feedback today I had almost 20 years ago. Yep. Or last week. It's like we keep working on the same things. And maybe it's a different situation. Maybe it was a different trail, different pitch, different snow, but it still ends up being, I still got to work on that.
I think the takeaway is, like, if you're going to be as bad as we are, you got to have heart.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, we can suck with the best of them.
My friend Matt's dad, Diamond Dave, used to look at us when we were kids, and he said, "If you boys are going to be that dumb, you better be tough."
Yeah. But all right. Well, I think we'll probably end it there because we know we got a lot more. We could talk about this one, which we will again. We'll definitely talk more about some ski performance, body performance, how they relate, and also I think we need to explore a lot on the play and exploration to really explore movements and how we're affecting the ski with different rates and timing. I mean, that's something I think which we could talk about all winter, which I think will end up at different times and some different tasks. Hopefully some people will send in some specific questions. Yeah. Some things they're working on our YouTube channel or Facebook or whatever to the two of us.
Yeah.
We'll go from there.
Happy to accept questions. Complaints can go to Dave.
That's right. Yeah. Because I'll just forward them back to you.
All right. Let's get out of here.
All right. All righty. Thanks, everybody, for joining in with the Fall Line with Chaos and Company.